movie night. We're getting buff, bronze, and blown to bits with the Toxic Avenger. I'm working at the gym, Scott's saving the city, and Adam's living in the dump. With our shitty powers combined, we can make the world's shittiest superhero. So strap on your tutu, put on a cup to protect your balls, because it's horror movie night. I picked this movie much to the insistence, like, both... I don't know how much Adam protested, but Scott was very protesting against picking a Toxic Avenger movie, really any Troma film.
I fought this tooth and nail.
But I kept standing my ground that, like, I love all Troma movies, really, but at the end of the day, the first, like, 2 or 3 Troma horror films before they really started to get into, like, the comic book wackiness that happened in, like, the early 90s, is definitely the best Troma. Although that isn't to deter from... I think Adam will back me up a little bit on this, where, like, if you've got the right group of people, fucking Tromeo and Juliet and Terror Firmer are great times, but Toxic Avenger is one of the few that, like, you can watch alone and enjoy, whereas a lot of the other ones are definitely, like, you need a community feeling to really enjoy the movie.
It takes a village to actually enjoy.
Yes.
Yeah, and Toxie is probably the most accessible one. Like, there's no popcorn birth or...
the popcorn birth.
Yeah.
There's no transvestite serial killer in this. It's a pretty simple story.
Well, I think it's because this one and the first class of Nukem High were both made to actually be in theaters. So they had way more of, like, a mainstream push behind them. Whereas, like, when they realized, like, these movies are never going to get into theaters, they just decided to go completely balls to the wall at that point. Or at least that's my theory.
All right, well, that's been Horror Movie Night, everybody.
Oh, man. Enough of this bullshit. Let's get into New Jersey talk here.
Oh, yeah, there's a ton of Dukes running around in Toxic Avenger.
God, so many fucking Dukes, you're not going to even believe it.
These guys make Duke look like a fucking saint.
Yeah. Let's have sex in the gym.
Everyone in Tromaville is so evil. Like, unreasonably evil. So I want to get into real quick. I have, like, a really weird history with the Toxic Avenger, and I want to tell that story before we dive into this movie. And I think I know I've probably told Adam and Scott this story. I don't know if I've ever told this story on the podcast. So, as a kid, I loved the Toxic Crusaders cartoon series. It was, like, my favorite cartoon series growing up. And I had an uncle who I may or may not have talked about on here who was pretty rich and collected a lot of really weird shit that as a child I didn't appreciate, and now as an adult I'm, like, bummed that he doesn't live near me anymore because I'd love to just look at all this stuff. Where he had, like, these, like, 2-foot tall statues of all of the Cenobites from Hellraiser and, like, just, like, really dope stuff. He loved horror movies. So I would always, like, we would go to his house and my family would be swimming in his pool or hanging out drinking, and I would just kind of roam around in his basement and, like, look at these statues, and he would have, like, arcades and pinball machines down there that I'd play and stuff like that. So I'm looking at his VHS tapes. I'm, like, 6, and I see Toxie from the Toxic Crusaders staring at me from a VHS box. And I'm like, oh, man, they made a movie on my cartoon series? Like, I got so excited. So, like, I sat down and I popped this thing into the VCR and I just start watching.
Oh, no.
And, at first I'm like, well, this is weird, but whatever. And, like, you know, I'm young enough where, like, the boobs mean nothing to me. So I'm just like, all right. And I'm just watching it. And then, like, he gets thrown into the vat of toxic waste. And that's, like, kind of gross. But I'm like, well, you know, I know he's a good guy. So, okay. Like, and I'm just kind of, like, following through. And then you get to the first alley fight where he pops that guy's eyeballs out of his face with his fingers, and I just start crying. Like, crying. My mom found me, I think she found me in the middle of the taco massacre scene with just a pillow over my face crying. I was so afraid to look, and I'm just screaming, shut it off! I was afraid to, like, walk to the VCR to shut it off because I would see more of what was happening. Like, that movie fucked me up so bad, and it scarred me so bad that I did not actually watch this movie until, like, high school. Like, I just was like, no. And then in high school, my friend had a copy of it, and I borrowed it. I'm like, this is fucking amazing! And I just started watching Troma films like crazy from that point.
I remember something very similar from my childhood. So I watched the Toxic Crusaders cartoon as well, and I had a couple of toys because those things were the shit.
They were the best toys. They're still the best toys from that era of toys.
Well, they're up there. They just reminded me. The reason that I like them was because they reminded me of Ninja Turtles toys. Because there was a Garbage Man toy that the Ninja Turtles lines had that he had a garbage pail on his back that you could put green goo in, and it would squeeze out and come out of his chest and eyes and nose. And little boys love boogers and stuff. So I was like, oh, more toys like that. I need to have them. So I mean, but
they were so much more detailed. They used so much more like vivid coloring in the Toxic Crusaders ones than they did on the Turtles, which is why I put them a step above. Like they really put like the tender love and care that Troma doesn't put into their movies. They 100% put into the marketing of those toys to children.
Well, to be fair, I'm sure that Troma wasn't marketing the toys. It was whoever they sold the rights to for Toxic Crusaders, the cartoon.
Fair enough.
Anyway, so I never seen the original Toxic Crusader, but I knew that it was a movie as well as the cartoons once I was like 10, and we were at somebody else's house and they had cable, and I don't know why I wasn't playing with their daughter. Maybe she wasn't home or something like that. But like they had a daughter that was about my age, and we'd play outside, whatever, whenever we went to their house. But she was doing something else or not there, and so I turned on their cable because I didn't grow up with cable, and so it was always like, oh, sweet, I can go watch something that I can't see at home. Toxic Crusader 2 is on, and it's the fight scene where he's just murdering people in awful, over-the-top splatter gore ways. And there's a guy...
You gotta stop calling the movies Toxic Crusader. It's Toxic Avenger.
Yeah. Okay, no. Toxic Crusaders was the cartoon.
Right, yes.
Sorry, Toxic Avenger 2. There, I understand. I was just... I'm in my own little world right now. So I can see myself sitting in, 2 inches from the TV, watching Toxie, the Toxic Crusader. Toxic Avenger, fuck! Toxie, take the guy in the wheelchair and fold him like an accordion, and like all this red jelly coming out of his mouth, and that fucked me up so bad. I was like Matt watching the taco fight scene in the original Toxie. It was just so disturbing, and I had to turn it off.
I have a very different story than you guys. I went over to a friend's house. His name is Connor. And I fucking gotta say thank you to Connor because he introduced me to all this shit. Like very formative movie watching years. Like I would have never watched a lot of this shit had it not been for him. So I go over to his house and and we're like in the 7th grade. This motherfucker has saved up all of his money to buy the 4-pack of the Toxic Avenger movies. So he has all 4. Like what 12-year-old kid does this? But just awesome, right? So he's bought the 4-pack, and we sit down in his living room, and he's telling me about it. He's like, these are super gory, and there's all sorts of crazy shit in here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, are you sure that we're, like, going to be allowed to watch this? Like, because his parents are, like, in the other room in, like, the kitchen and shit. And he's like, yeah, it's fine. We'll have to skip over the parts with the titties, right? Because, like, I'm allowed to watch violent stuff.
And did you throw something on the floor and say, then why the fuck did I come here?
Why would we even watch it? No, I'd never seen this movie. But so we just got to skip over the titty parts, but I'm allowed to watch the violent stuff. So we're watching the movie, and it gets to the scene where they run over the kid's head, which is just so clearly a watermelon.
But it's such an effective special effect, though, at the exact same time. Like, it is just a watermelon filled with, like, Jell-O and food coloring. But, like, the editing of it just makes it work for some weird reason. Because they don't linger on it. Like,
right. So we get to that scene, and we rewind it. And then we rewind it again. And then we rewind it again. And his parents, from, like, the kitchen, all they hear is the same scene over and over, just like, fuck yeah, run him over, fuck yeah, run him over. Like, it just keeps happening over and over again. And they come in, and we're on, like, the 7th loop of watching this kid get his head run over, and his parents are like, what the shit? And fucking shut it off. We're not allowed to watch it. So, like, we're like, okay, you know what? If we're going to watch this stuff, we should probably watch it in the basement. So, like, a week later, I came back, and we finished the movie, and, like, 12-year-old me thought this was the funniest shit ever. Like, this was hilarious. So I loved it right from the get-go. and then like maybe a month later we were watching shit like Cannibal Holocaust and shit like that.
It was the downward spiral right from there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're like, wow, let's get deeper. Let's go as fucked up as we can go. And then we rented Necromantic 2 and shit, just fucked up stuff.
So
12-year-olds watching Necromantic 2.
So this all built to your love of taxidermia, basically. That's what you're saying.
Precisely. And my obsession with butane lighters in my penis.
So the thing is with this movie, and even for me picking it, I forgot that, like, as funny as this movie is, and like for as well made as it is, for especially by Troma standards, there's actually a couple moments that are I don't know what the word is I want to say. I don't want to say dramatic, because that seems like it's like touching, but there's like these moments in the movie that are awesome moments. When Toxie's like in the car with Bozo, and he's just like screaming at him like, "You know who I am? I'm Melvin. I'm Melvin." This is with like, it's like one of those moments where it's like you think of all of the other Toxic Avenger movies where it's just like doop 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 doop, I'm the Toxic Avenger, like, and it's just like laid back. But like it's moments like that where you're kind of reminded, like, yeah, this kid's life's ruined. Like this, like he has every right to want to murder the ever-loving shit out of these punks because they picked on him for literally nothing except that he looked weird, and threw him into a vat of toxic waste that is going to mutate him into this beast for all eternity. Like,
yeah, but they honestly gave him so much better of a life.
Oh yeah, he got laid.
He has muscles. He gets to have a hot blind girlfriend.
I mean, yeah, he lives in the dump now, but at least he's out of his mom's house.
Yeah, right? It worked for Tent Guy. If it's good enough for Tent Guy, it's good enough for Toxie.
Yeah. I want to set this as like the gold standard of like, listen, if you're and I'm looking at you, fucking Jack Frost 2, Revenge of the pervy, badly shot fucking garbage. Like if your movie is not up to the same standard as Toxic Avenger 1, then just don't fucking make it. Don't make it. If you're going to make a movie that Troma has already done way fucking better than you, then you really need to reevaluate whether that movie needs to be fucking made or not. Like,
well, and I love, like, I've read most of Lloyd's books, and like the whole reason that Toxic Avenger even exists is like such a, like, I feel like sometimes we forget how much of Troma's decisions are based on pure anarchy. And like it literally their whole decision was because if you've ever seen the movies before Toxic Avenger, they just made like really bad Porky's style sex comedies. Like that was what they did prior to this movie. They made like a movie called Squeeze Play about an all women softball team, and like a movie called Your First Time and Waitress and stuff like that. But he talks about how like their movies were doing well, but they weren't making a ton of money, and like they wanted to like have a big break. And basically there was like a New York Times article that just said horror is dead, and it was talking about how like there's been so many horror movies made that like none of them are successful anymore, and that the it's just going to get completely depleted in the next year. And they were like, so no one's making horror movies? We should make a horror movie. And like that was their entire inspiration for making it, was just to be like, all right, well, if no one else is going to make one, then we'll make one. And it clearly paid off because it was one of like the most financially successful films of that year, I think. And it was one of the most rented VHS tapes of all time, because when everyone else was like, no, VHS is going to ruin horror or ruin cinema because it'll take away from the experience, they were like, fuck it, put it on VHS. So in the early days, you only had a couple selections like Toxic Avenger or Ghoulies, as I explained in the Ghoulies 2 episode. But we should actually talk about the plot of this movie.
Should we, though? I don't really feel like it's necessary. I don't...
Like, I don't have to talk about the plot, but there are some really funny scenes and comments, like quotes, that I want to talk about.
Well, the first big thing, though, is did you guys catch the Marissa Tomei cameo?
Okay, I did not. I was looking on IMDb, and they're like, oh, Marissa Tomei. I was like, where?
So
she's got to be in the gym scene, right?
She is the person who, when Toxie is in the gym, she comes around the corner wrapped in a towel and sees Toxie and starts screaming and runs away. That was her acting debut. And like,
Good job, Marissa.
well, apparently they cut that scene because they're like, well, this scene's unnecessary. And then like Marissa Tomei became really famous and like bumped into Lloyd one time. I was like, I was in Toxic Avenger and you cut my scene. And he's like, well, we'll put it into the DVD then. And he like re-edited it back into the movie. And that's usually how I know it's hers, because you feel that you literally see the quality of the film dip just a little bit, because it's like going from the stuff that they kept clean and taken care of over the last couple of years to like the piece of film that was probably laying on the basement floor for the last decade.
I just like the fact that they kept it.
Yeah.
They kept all their like cut scenes.
He always talks about in a lot of his books the fact that he thinks that it's a travesty, like how many classic films are lost from like the early era. So Troma's very big on like they keep everything that they shoot in case they need it, because they want to make sure like I will give them this credit over almost any other schlocky company. When they make a DVD, they pack that shit with as many special features as they can possibly load into that DVD set. So like that's a big thing of it too.
I also feel like Lloyd's like, listen, I spent $17 on that scene. I'm not fucking throwing it away.
Yeah, I mean, they've used the same car crash scene in 9 movies.
Yes, yeah. That's the one. Yeah, absolutely. That same fucking flipping explosion over and over and over again.
Regardless of the color matches or anything at this point. It's so good.
So good. Oh, there you go. If Matt says it and I say it, it's got to be true.
Yeah.
So the intro gym scene has let me count the ways of how amazing it is. It's got synchronized spinning, like there are people on bicycles making synchronized hand gestures, an ambiguously gay set of grape smugglers who show up later as gay hairdressers. So I guess I wasn't wrong. Karate guy, the first of many, because everybody in Tromaville apparently knows karate. And way too many smiles to have not involved like kilos of nose candy. It's just like there's so much coke that had to have been consumed in the making of this film. And also, these are the most attractive women I've ever seen in a Troma film, because usually they are so unattractive.
For the most part, I feel like Tromeo and Juliet has some pretty good-looking girls in it. And actually, Return to
I've
Nukem...
never watched Tromeo and Juliet.
Tromeo and Juliet is a blast. Return to Nukem High, that came out this year, has, without a doubt, the hottest cast I've ever seen in a Troma movie. Like, both of the lead girls are gorgeous, and furthermore, are actually talented actresses.
Man, you guys, I didn't want to watch more Troma, but you're talking me into it. So I forgot a couple things that happened in that intro scene. Boob grabbing and more karate. Like, this movie just... so I was really, really not looking forward to discussing this, and so I put off watching Toxic Avenger. Luckily, all of Troma's movies are on YouTube, so I didn't have to track it down in any way, shape, or form. And within the first 2 minutes, I'm like, totally on board. Because I think I saw the original when I was maybe 15. I mean, it's been a long time, half my life ago or more. But then, like, Bozo is like, he's stressing me out. He like runs off screen, and he's still saying "out" as he runs off screen. And I'm like, I love the fact that it feels like Troma, but it's not crap like most of the Troma that I've watched in the last decade. So
dude,
I mean,
the actor who plays both of the punks, Bozo and
they're not punks, dude. They're bros.
But you know,
they're
what I mean?
More Duke than Suicide.
But like. You know what I mean? Like the asshole gym rats that are just like the most horrible people ever. Those dudes are both like given so much in this movie for their performances. Like Bozo particularly is fucking killing it. Like when he's standing outside and both of the girls have already been killed at this point, he's just like, she's stressing me out. Where's the car? She's stressing me out. It's like.
I mean, they're overacting the hell out of their parts.
But it's phenomenal. Like, it's what it deserves.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It works in its own way. But they're smoking cigarettes in the weight room, and I'm just like, the 80s. What a special time.
They're passing the joint as they're doing the exercises.
But it's just... So it's supposed to be a joint. I understand that. It's a cigarette.
Oh, yeah, it's 100% a cigarette.
That prop is just a fucking cigarette. Oh, man. But then somebody uses the N-word with a hard R. was like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa. Which is also, that ranks 2 N-words with hard R's in 2 films that I've watched this weekend. And we'll get to that with the What Did We Watch, but it was very weird to hear the N-word twice without it being like the slang, not offensive version within the span of like 48 hours.
I would say the slang less offensive version. Depends on who's saying it.
If a white person says it, you're not allowed to say it. But I mean, it's slang and unoffensive if you're a person of color. You're allowed to say it. I'm not saying that with any sort of malice. I'm just saying I can't say that word.
That's true.
Who says the N-word? Is it the black armless dude, or
no,
who is
no,
it?
It's one of the.
It's one of the girls when they're going down the lists. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she goes through a litany of just offensive. Well, actually, she just says the N-word, and then she's like, "Oh, but Puerto Ricans are worth the most." And I'm like, "What are we watching, Maniac Cop?" But anyway, that head explosion is pretty solid. I did not know it was a watermelon full of jelly. So thank you, or Jello. But thank you for explaining that one. But then they're awful. They go out and they take Polaroids and they're like dancing around. And I'm like, nobody hears them like screeching like banshees and taking Polaroids? Okay. So then we skip to the part where...
Wait. In what world can you drive around with big old symbols on the side of your Buick that say, like, wheelchair, old person, little kid, and nobody suspects that you're the one doing this? Like,
because nobody cares, because all the cops just want to get the drug money that they get from extortion, I guess.
True.
Yeah, everybody in Tromaville sucks, apparently, except for Toxie and the blonde girl, Sarah. Yeah, those are the only 2 good people in Tromaville. So we get right to the transformation part where the one bitchy blonde girl is like, she makes him put on that getup, and he's like, "But this is sissy stuff." And I'm just like, man, I can't wait till Melvin transforms into the Toxic Avenger because he's really annoying. But that guy's teeth are just every scene. It's just like, if I could like turn this movie black and white and look at the contrast, it would be teeth. But at least they're upfront about the coke that this film was fueled by, because those 2 guys driving the toxic waste are like, their whole faces are covered in cocaine when they're sitting doing blow. And then
by the time that Melvin falls in the truck, it looks like they're wearing like Kiss makeup.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And I actually have a note, like, this is definitely the highest budget Troma flick because of the transformation being pretty sweet. Like, his skin's bubbling, and then the cop's hands light on fire, and then they have somebody in an entire fire suit running down the street.
That is so awesome. That is a fucking amazing scene, and it's really cinematic. And I love the fact that he lights on fire, and then he dips around the corner, so you never really see him go out. They don't do the cutaway thing. That was really good, and it's like all slow motion, and the music's all rising up. Top notch, Troma. You blew your load, but it was really good.
It's worth it. And then he like goes home, and then there's a second transformation scene, which is really cool, because in the grand scheme of like transformations, you don't really get like a 2-part transformation scene if somebody's just turning into a monster. Usually it's either like broken up, like in The Fly, it's broken up because he loses pieces at a time or whatever, but it was cool because it just felt like bookended. It was cool. And then his first fight with Cigar Face. I mean, really? Now I'm going to find out why they call you Cigar Face? Okay. But that first fight is really slapstick mixed with a ton of gore, and I wasn't loving it. But
you didn't like him speed bagging that dude's nuts while he was stuck in the garbage can?
Actually, I loved that part. I didn't love me speed bagging his face. Like, I was okay with the nuts.
Well, so my favorite part about watching this movie with anybody, because I've shown this movie to a ton of people at this point, is I can tell you the exact moment when they suddenly realize what the movie is and are like absolutely in love with it. And it's at the very end of that scene when Toxie speaks for the first time, and they hear that over the top, like, super macho voice. That's when they're just like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like after all of like the growls and grunts, and then he just bends down and is like, hello, I'm sorry, I hope you're okay. You're like, what the fuck is this? And kudos for them, really. I'm not sure if you ever saw the trailer for Toxic Avenger, but if you watch the trailers that were in theaters, because it was like a grindhousey movie that was in theaters, it's all about, like, his face is so horrible, we cannot show it in this trailer. And, like, they really played that up and, like, kept the movie going, like, a good 45 minutes before you actually see his face.
40 minutes before you see his face, yeah.
And it's like, that's, kudos. And it looks better than any other time that they've done Toxie's face since. Like,
it looks like real prosthetic makeup, and by the time we get to, like, Citizen Toxie, it's just a mask. They just pull a mask over him.
Yeah. I don't think that the guy who was wearing the mask because I've seen clips of Citizen Toxie, I know, and it looks like a Halloween mask, and the guy can't see out of it.
So do you know who plays the Toxic Avenger in this movie, by the way? I'm trusting IMDb here because it has not changed in 10 years. The actor who played Toxie has one other movie credit, and it's in Clerks. And
what?
He's the dude leaning against the wall when he yells, "Try not to suck any dick on the way to the parking lot," and he, like, starts following the girl. Is apparently the actor.
Get back here.
Yeah, is apparently the actor that.
And that's also based in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Holy cow! Holy tomato! Which also I think is based in New Jersey. So then you get the taco fight scene, which is pretty much classic, I guess.
Yeah, you want to talk about people knowing karate? People are doing, like, fucking crazy flips and shit, man.
Yeah. Oh, but also, so let's just gloss over the black dude who gets his arm ripped off as he's about to rape Sarah. He's like, I think this bitch is blind. I've always wanted a cornhole one or something. Oh, it's bad. Like, I cringe real hard because I understand he's supposed to be a bad guy, but it's still a little much. But then they kill the fucking dog, and then there are katanas on the wall at a taco place. So I mean, it's a real roller coaster of emotions.
So that dog scene is the scene that they have received more complaints about than any other scene of any of their movies. They said
they shouldn't have killed that dog. It should have lived.
Oh, what are you talking about? They cut back to the dog and it's clearly breathing. Like,
but he's also got, like, tuna fish or, like, pulled chicken pieces, cooked pulled chicken on his side. It's still fucked up.
The one actor quit the movie after he had to point the gun at the baby. Like, he was like, "I can't do this. I'm done."
The guy who was dressed up with the half face makeup.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was where he put his foot down.
Oh wow! Not that you get a sundae shoved in your face and then killed by a sundae machine, but rather the pointing a gun at a dog.
Side note: I love the joke after all this happens, where it cuts to the cops investigating the scene, and they're all just crushing tacos.
Yeah. Oh man!
There's, like, some subtle humor in this movie that is, like, top fucking notch, and then there's some unsubtle humor in this movie that is also top fucking notch. But
well, I have a question. Why is there a pizza oven at a taco restaurant?
Mexican
are you
pizza.
Really confused about that over the katanas?
You've never had a taco pizza?
They've got everything, dude. Holy.
Dude, no. I got it. Mexican pizza.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Oh, I'm sorry. Adam and I were riffing and we didn't hear you. The high point of the movie for me is definitely when Sarah is trying to give Toxie a palm reading and instead gives him a blind girl hand jibber. Pretty much the number one reason to become Toxic Avenger is to get one of those.
How great is the shitty 80s soundtrack during their, like, love montage, too?
Their romantic montage was actually my next note. It's so
is
good.
This love?
The music, there is so much music in this film. Almost every scene has music behind it, and it's all just classic 80s trash. It's so good. It's almost aerobicide level of, like, good bad 80s music. But then so I think it's actually like chronologically before their romantic interlude, like their montage, you get the other bitchy chick masturbating to car crash Polaroids in the sauna. Like, if you didn't think that she was a piece of shit before, I mean, that's just twisted.
That girl has the craziest tan lines too. That's all I have to say about that.
Doesn't he call her hot ass? Like, it was that. Somebody go back to the 80s and check and see if that really was something that you would call someone.
Yeah.
Well, he calls her hot ass because then he dumps her on the stones and burns the shit out of her butt.
I know, but it was supposed to be like tongue-in-cheek because hot ass would be something you call a woman with a great butt.
I'm going to call you hot ass as if it's a euphemism and then put you on the stone. Yeah, no, I doubt it.
Okay, well...
Sugar tits, though, still in style at the time.
So, I take it back about the the blind chick hand jibber. The other best part of this movie is when Toxie has a ring of 6 bad guys, Cigarface and company, all pointing their guns at him. This cannot go poorly for all the people that are standing in a circle that are going to try and execute him. Like everybody shooting him all at once. Nobody's going to miss. And then he has like Lipatal building in a single bound powers, and they all kill each other. And then he just like middle finger and just like kind of laughs and like gives them a like machine gun middle finger. You know what I'm talking about? He's like, love it.
I'll tell you though, my favorite scene, the scene that I include in every year's horror montage, is that fucking dropping the weight on that dude's face in the middle of the gym is so good.
Number 2.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And I just like the tension of cutting back and forth between the dude screaming and the weight until it drops. It's like some top-notch editing.
Die.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
I hated that they had to throw in the pants shitting sound with that though.
Yeah.
Okay, I think probably one of my favorite parts of this movie is the whole montage with the spinning newspapers, right? And,
yeah, that's pretty nice.
I've got it loaded up in front of me here, so I'm going to give you a play-by-play, because this is some really fucking weird shit that's going on here, okay? Okay, so Toxie just saved the prostitute from the 6 dudes in the ring or whatever, right? When they all died, and he put her back in the limo. Newspaper spins, cuts to Toxie's in a field, he's wearing a coat, a hat, and glasses, right? Turns around, runs at the camera, he's just like, pulling it all off, he shakes the glasses off, and that's it. I don't know why that. Cut to the little kids in the road. All right, little kids playing on the road. There's Bozo. They're talking about it. They're about to hit them. Okay, here he comes. Toxie comes in, grabs the little kids, pulls them to the side of the road. Okay, Bozo misses them. That's cool. That part makes sense. I guess that's fine. Whatever. Newspaper spins. Okay, now Toxie's just screaming at a bridge. He's just in a dump yelling at a bridge. He's looking up and he's just going, at a bridge. Like, why? What are you doing? Okay,
this movie is so existential.
he's gonna help the old lady across the street now, who is just slow as dirt. Oh, he's stopping cars. Oh, somebody can't get a container of they can't get a jar open, so he taps on her jar, her shoulder through the window. He's like, there you go, ma'am.
Hold on a second. It's a jar of popcorn kernels, but because he's toxic waste, they turn into actual popcorn that is continually popping because of his heat.
Exactly. And then Toxie just hands a woman a baby back. I don't know where the baby came from or how he saved it, but he's just holding the baby. He's like, here you go. And hands it to somebody.
She's like, who the fuck's baby is this?
Oh, yeah. So I love this whole section. Just this whole thing is just great. And then the gay hairdressers and stuff again, yeah. Has anybody ever owned one of those We Heart the Monster Hero shirts?
I own one, yes.
What?
Nice.
Yeah.
They make those?
They sell them on Troma.com, yeah. That is the fastest I've ever heard Scott. The only time I've heard Scott type faster is in that episode of The Rowan's when he realized he missed the full frontal nudity scene.
To be fair, that time I was checking to see IMDb. I wasn't Bing searching, all right?
Hey, do you guys remember the part in Toxie? It's a montage again, where he's just having a great time. He's living the high life, and he does up his garbage apartment or whatever, the dump place, with the blind girlfriend and stuff. It cuts to Toxie has a pylon on his head.
Yeah, and he's like,
and he takes it off, and he like tips it at her, and she like laughs, and I'm like, you're fucking blind. You have no idea what he's doing right now.
Maybe he made a funny. Maybe he just made a funny noise while he did it. Like, you don't know. He could have tipped that and was like da-da-da when he did it. And she's like, "Oh, you made a funny noise."
Like, is he a South Park character?
Yeah. Do you think that 50% of what she laughs at is him making fart jokes? Because like Toxie's not smart, and it'd be hard to do physical comedy in front of a woman that can't see it. So you just be like, "Well, I gotta make her laugh. Better fart." You can cut that.
I don't know. I just don't know what to say to it. I've been watching it on mute this whole time, so I'm kind of going out.
I need to save. I need to save all of the shit that I cut, and like when we get to episode 100, where we have to do another best of for the year, just do a montage of all of the times that Scott told a joke. There was silence, and he goes, "You can cut that."
I feel like it would just be a montage of montages that we've talked about doing, because there's at least 2 other montage ideas that we've thrown around. I'm not at a point where I can remember them because I'm pretty burnt out after listening to you guys tell me jokes that I can't laugh at in the last 3 hours.
So we should really get to what did we watch this week, because we've been talking about this movie for 45 fucking minutes.
That's like walking through the entire storyline.
All right, so I'll
wait. I had one more thing, and then we can move on. Do you remember the scene at the end?
Adam, I just watched this morning. Of course, I remember the scene.
Okay,
you're watching it as we speak. All
the tanks and everything and the army, they're outside of Coxie's tent, right? And they're all pointing guns at it. Yeah. Well, a lot of the people in the crowd have like rifles as well, right? And they're all pointing towards the tent. But you can see at least 3 or 4 people are just pointing that rifle at the back of the head of whoever is standing in front of them. So they would just completely blow the head off the first person in front of them if they did do anything here. But
last comment. 2 cops that see Toxie and Sarah, and he's like, "Oh, she's in a bikini. Bunch of mosquitoes biting my fucking asshole."
You can cut that. Sorry.
All right, so I got 3 more movies for what I watched this week to complete the... Look, man, we didn't record for like 3 weeks. The one I actually am barely going to talk about because I really don't remember much about it because I watched it 3 weeks ago. But I watched some movie from Troma called Mad Cow that I literally just bought because of the cover of the DVD when I was at San Diego Comic-Con. And it is a woman wearing like low-cut pants and a tank top covered in blood, and then this jacked beast standing behind her with a cow head and a chainsaw in his hand. And
it's holding the chainsaw like the wrong way.
Yeah, and the tagline is "Part man, part cow, utterly crazy."
Boo, Troma, boo.
Also, you're missing the part where he's wearing a pair of tidy whities.
Yeah. So this is the entire plot description on the back of the movie. They slaughtered his family, cut off his head, attached it to a human body, and now he, her wants revenge. Yeah, this movie's really bad.
This is awful.
Yeah,
I'm looking at images on Google. Yeah, and it is bad.
It's real bad. So that's why I don't have much to say about it. I've learned that most of the time, if it's not directed by Lloyd Kaufman, it's probably not worth your time. But whenever I see the people at the Troma booth, I'm friendly enough with them that they give me a discount, so I always just grab some piece of garbage to throw into my collection. I also watched Friday the 13th Part 6. When I was talking about Molly and I binging movies, that was one. She made me watch Saw because she was shocked that I hated Saw. I made her watch a Friday the 13th movie because she hates Friday the 13th movies. And I was like, look, I can't convince you to like Friday the 13th movies, but I can convince you to like Part 6 because it's super self-aware and really fun. Yeah. And she did. She loved it. Part 6 is like the, hands down, not even a debate, the best Friday the 13th movie. So I always take a second to remind listeners that they should check out Friday the 13th Part 6. And finally, Arrow Pictures just released a really, really fucking good documentary that I highly recommend to everybody called Ray Harryhausen Special Effects Titan. And it literally just works through his entire career and showing you how he did the special effects for like all of these amazing movies that I grew up on because of my dad. I to this day think that claymation is the coolest type of special effect, especially for what he made, which was fantasy films. So like it just works. I don't know why, but I feel like these claymation skeletons and cyclops and krakens and stuff like that just look so much cooler than a CGI creature in those movies. And look no further than the original Clash of the Titans versus the remake of Clash of the Titans, and it's like the charm of what made that movie work was the claymation scorpions and kraken and Medusa and stuff. So it's really cool just seeing the whole process of like how many hours this guy put into every one of these movies to make them work, and how with like very amateur special effects at that time, filming people fighting claymation creatures and stuff. It's very, very cool. So definitely worth checking out, especially if you loved movies like Jason and the Argonauts and The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad and stuff like I did as a kid.
All right, I'll go next.
Yeah, sure.
I have a movie, a scene, and a song.
It sounds like an album title.
Watched Pop Star. Never Stop, Never Stopping.
I liked it.
It was worth watching. It wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be. It was basically just a full-length Lonely Island video, which is fine. I mean, there were some funny songs like Fuck Bin Laden, or Fuck Like Bin Laden, or whatever it is. Actually pretty catchy. I then so watched that Friday night, and then Saturday morning I wake up and I'm like cleaning the kitchen or something. Megan's still asleep, and I'm like, wants me to fuck her like shit, fuck Bin Laden. Like I'm like cleaning the kitchen, like whistling the song. I'm like, man, this is just a really offensive song. But that is the movie, the other movie that within the last 48 hours or so, I've heard the hard R N-word. And we're both, Megan and I had the exact same, because it's Maya Rudolph. She says it to whatever, the black dude in Connor for Real's posse. And Megan and I were just like, whoa. And everybody else was like, whoa. And somebody in the background was like, yeah, the hard R. It's funny, but not. I feel like it could have been better. I think that the best part was Justin Timberlake, just because it's funny that he tags along with them. Every time he's involved with Lonely Island shit, it's just funny to me. And then the scene that I watched, Megan and I were laying in bed one weeknight recently, and I was like, for some reason, I got started thinking about aerobicide, also known as killer workout. And I'm like, I just really want to watch the workout scenes. I wonder if there's a supercut of all of the workout scenes from aerobicide. And I look it up on YouTube. There is one, and I'm like, Megan, don't go to sleep yet. And so we watched like a 5-minute supercut of all the mashed up scenes from aerobicide. And she's like, Scott, why do you do this to me?
I was gonna say, the day that you get divorced, we'll be able to do a supercut of all the reasons why that occurred.
Here's the thing: is that we talk about all the dumb shit that I do to Megan, but we don't talk about all the sweet stuff I do. I mean, it's very, very, very one-sided. Like, I'm a good husband, all right? So
no. I know that you are a very sweet, loving person. You just do some really funny, fucked up shit that I like making fun of.
I want to do a little self-promotion here. Back in May, I was talking up my Console Crash full-length album that I did. It's my instrumental metal record that's all Nintendo music. And I don't know if you guys remember, but they did a Toxic Crusaders Nintendo game, too.
Yeah.
You guys remember that? Did you ever play it?
I owned it, and I could not get it to work on my NES.
Yeah, it was pretty janky. But yeah, it was. I think I played it like emulator style, but never like when I was a kid because that was way too obscure to find at my local GameStop, game store, or whatever. So some of the music is actually really great, and I used it in my Console Crash album, and I believe that the song that has it is called "Above the Purple Canopy." I might post it in the discussion when we eventually get to this one, but I'll have to go back through my notes because I actually don't remember what song name it is, but it's got great music. The soundtrack is pretty fun. That was pretty much the best part of that game is the soundtrack, actually, which that's my personal opinion. But yeah, that's me.
All right, Scott, Adam, what did you watch?
RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars Season 2. Have you watched it? Are you up to date, Scott?
Well, I think we've only watched 2 episodes. Isn't it 2 episodes in?
Yeah, it's just the 2, yeah.
Yeah, you tell me what you think.
I think Adore Delano is an idiot.
I agree.
I think Michelle Visage is a bitch.
I agree.
And I think that this feels like probably the most like heavily kind of scripted and produced season that they've ever done. It feels.
Thank goodness. I'm in the same boat, man. Because like I've been watching it with Megan, and Megan's all about it, and because she loves everything that they do. But I was just like, this feels really scripted because everybody knows in the back of their brains that reality TV has a script, but it was very ham-fisted, especially with Adore like coming on, and then Michelle, who's her fucking mentor, like. They work together all the time, and then they shoehorn in Michelle making fun of her weight because Adore is much bigger than she was when I last saw her, and that's fine. Do whatever the hell you want, but like, don't make it this weird dynamic where you make Michelle a villain and then have Adore leave for no reason because everybody's saying like, well, that would be stupid, and they only have like 9 queens on there. I mean, they severely hindered the show. Like they're gonna have to find some way to make it a full season.
Well, I tell you what, I already have a theory as to what's going to happen. You know how after every girl gets booted out, that like video message comes on from Rue, and it's like, don't worry, you're going to have your chance at revenge. And they're like, does that mean I get to stay, or like, what does that mean? What I think is going to happen is that they're all going to come back Survivor style, and they're going to, when it's down to the last 2, they're going to be the ones that vote for the winner. So. We're going to get an extra episode for that. But again, that harkens back to like this feels so fucking ham-fisted and forced. I don't like it. I don't like what they're doing.
It really does take the fun out of it. But the thing I think that bothers me more than the fact that the script is very obvious this time around is that whoever they have doing either the editing or the cinematography or the like the camera work, they're doing a lot of cuts, like a lot more cuts to it. It feels really manic, and it's hard to watch for me. Like I don't remember that from past seasons.
Yeah. At this point, by the time this episode is released, there's probably been 2 or 3 more episodes that we're not talking about here. I don't know. I mean, I don't have a choice but to watch it. The girlfriend fucking like puts a gun to my head and makes me watch it. So
I'm going to watch all of it too. Don't worry.
Yeah, so we'll come back to this, but as of thus far, I don't know. It doesn't feel the same. It feels weird, which I guess is kind of to be expected with like an all-star season. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's it for me.
You know how you guys zone out when I talk about wrestling?
Oh, I don't blame you in the least. Don't blame you.
That was Toxic Avenger from 1984. Thank you guys for listening. It was picked by myself. I think we said that in the beginning. You guys can also pick movies by contacting us at hmnpodcast@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Twitter at hmnpodcast. You can find us on Facebook. We'll let you be part of the group. We keep it private to keep out the people trying to sell sunglasses and shit. You can also call us at 405-466-7632. We love hearing from you guys. Rate and review us on SoundCloud and iTunes, and throw those comments on SoundCloud. Those always look kind of cool, seeing that people are actually commenting on our shit. Someone wrote "Matunes" on as a comment on the Ghoulies 2 episode that made
Ghoulies
me
2.
smile. So thank you guys. We'll be back next week with another episode. Well, like I said, like the intro for part 4, he's just going through the whole plot of it, where he's just like, he fell into a vat of toxic waste and turned into the Toxic Avenger, New Jersey's first superhero. Then there were 2 rotten sequels. We don't need to talk about that. Welcome to Citizen Toxie 4, the real sequel, Excelsior. It's like.
Oh man, that's so good.
And then he pops up at the second half of it too, where he's just like, and that's how Toxie saved the world. It's like that Toxic Avenger 4 has probably the most absurd cameos in like Toxie history.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.